Severe weather strikes the capital. What's the next step in recovery? The move to the new Arawak Key port has some unintended consequences, and drug peddlers in court. You won't believe their day jobs. The Bahamas Tonight starts now.
Covering the islands of the Bahamas, ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight.
This portion of the news is brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
Good evening and welcome to The Bahamas Tonight. I'm Giovanni Stewart. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, many residents are still repairing and recovering from an unexpected weather system that not only drenched Andros and New Providence, but dealt a lot of damage to homes in those areas. And even though many thought they saw a tornado, as Clint Watson reports, Met Department officials say that was not the case.
Workmen wasting no time repairing damage caused by a strong weather system that swept through parts of the capital early Sunday morning, leaving a mess in its wake. And although thanks to political candidates, some residents were able to begin repairs immediately, the National Emergency Management Agency is conducting an assessment of the entire area to ensure no one is left out. NEMA Director Captain Stephen Russell says they were able to identify the track the storm took, so they have a pretty good idea of which area was affected.
We put some basic boundaries on 2 or 3 miles on either side of that main access there. And we now advise our teams from the Department of Social Services and the Ministry of Public Works and Transport now to do thorough assessments of that general area there to see whose homes were really impacted in those areas there. We know we saw a beehive of activities in the Malcolm Road area on Sunday, as well as in the Carpenter Road area. But again, those persons in between now, we're going to make sure that nobody's been left out in terms of an initial assessment so we can make a determination as to how we can best assist those persons.
Chief Meteorologist Basil Dean says while many refer to the system as a tornado, they can confirm that it wasn't a tornado, but a system brought on by severe thunderstorms. A system, he stressed, they issued warnings well in advance.
Tornadoes are violent, yes, but we have other weather phenomena that can produce just as violent winds.
Over 4.5 inches of rain also recorded. And with this kind of damage left behind, Dean says it is important for residents not to ignore any warning issued regarding the weather.
Once you hear thunderstorm activity, thunderstorms in general produce all of these weather phenomena. Tornadoes are spawned from thunderstorms. Microbursts are spawned from thunderstorms. Strong gusty winds are spawned from thunderstorms. So the one thing you want to pay attention to is thunderstorms.
Clint Watson, ZNS News.
Free National Movement candidate for Seabreeze, Carl Bethel, today laid out his plans to further develop his constituency, along with touting the F&M's record. He appeared on Immediate Response and is the first in a list of political candidates from all parties expected to be on the airwaves. Carla Palmer tells us more.
Three-term incumbent candidate for Seabreeze, Carl Bethel, says despite accomplishments, there is still much more to be done for area residents. With the replacement of aged light poles, Bethel highlights further plans if re-elected.
We would build them a park after 40 years. We did that. We now find that in independent estates, there's a tremendous need for some public recreational facility for the children in their area so they don't have to go and cross major roads in order to enjoy public facilities or a park.
The F&M's national chairman, while confident the party will be re-elected, listed initiatives by the government, including its social assistance program, implementation of the minimum wage, breaking the monopoly of the airwaves, the issuance of bonds for various projects, and steps to address the crime problem.
The government has invested more than $14 million in renovating the Supreme Court, another 20 or so more $million buying the Ansbacher House. We have now fully renovated that. We have the capacity now for at least 14 Supreme Courts to operate instead of the 10. And so what you are beginning to see, and what the Bahamian people are beginning to see, is actual progress in addressing the issue of bringing current cases to trial and actual progress in rolling back the backlog of previously started criminal matters that have gone nowhere for years.
Regardless of the ads by political opponents criticizing the government on its infrastructural developments, Mr. Bethel maintains the outcomes will have national implications benefiting all, like the newly constructed roads. Carla Palmer, ZNS News.
With the government being the target of political attacks as it relates to the ongoing roadworks, Mr. Bethel attempted to set the record straight once and for all as to how the road contracting company Jose Cataloni came to be hired to carry out the works.
Facts are that the money was borrowed from the Inter-American Development Bank, and if you borrow their money, as was well known to both governments, you have to advertise throughout the Americas. And the bid process is supervised by the IDB officials, and who wins, wins. And it was when the bids were put out, America was booming. So there, as I recall, there were no major American road building contractors who ever even bid.
For the added expense or cost overruns of the project, Mr. Bethel explained the reasoning on a coordination issue or lack thereof.
When we came back in office in 2007, we resolved that we would continue and finish the program. The bidder who had won, according to IDB rules under their supervision, was Jose Cataloni, and that therefore mandated the government, if it wished to continue with the IDB loan, as I recall, we had to accept that bid result and work with the contractor who had won the bid.
Today, some shipping companies are still reeling from the move to the centralized Arawak Key port. The $83 million investment sets a precedent for a successful collaboration between the government, the private sector, and the Bahamian investing public. Our Janaea Noel Ferguson spoke with one shipping executive today who talked about the move and what this now means for shipping companies.
1 week after taking residence at the new multi-million-dollar Arawak Key port development, Port Director of ACL Shipping Garth Roll says the relocation did not come without its challenges.
This is a huge move for the port, trying to get ACL, Tropical, MSC, G&G, Crowley operating from one terminal. It has its challenges. But not unexpectedly, those challenges are understandable. I think they're doing a great job in trying to alleviate and minimize those challenges.
Despite the fact that this is being viewed as a good move to improve the aesthetic appeal of Bay Street, the shipping executive says it has created a timing issue for some customers.
In the past, where a customer was able to get possession of his cargo by 10 o'clock, now they may not see that cargo that same day. It could be the next day before they actually have access to it. It is a difficult proposition to be a tourist destination and having all of the containers all over Bay Street, to have all of the trucks moving up and down. It is a challenge, and it does not bode well for a tourist destination. So I understand and fully support the government's mandate to get all the carriers off of Bay Street.
Additionally, the move has forced the company to release some 3 employees, and ACL is also dealing with port fees.
Most of the companies who we are passing these increases on to, they're in turn going to react, and they're going to increase their cost of goods to the public. So at the end of the day, prices are going up, bottom line.
Janaea Noel Ferguson, ZNS News.
Tonight, police are investigating one of its own, but it might not be for the charge that you're thinking about. We'll tell you more after the break.